Hi everyone, good afternoon and a very warm welcome to this session of FB Live, which is part of a series on teacher competencies and professional development. I'm Priyanka and I head the certification team of Center. I have here today Sonali Bhattacharya, who is a trainer and a soft skill consultant with Oxford University Press Teacher Training Program. And I'm happy to announce here that Oxford University Press is continuing their partnership with us for TPO 2018 as well. And what it has for you is a number of interesting prizes, where one includes a 2-week masterclass at Oxford University in UK, along with many other online teacher training programs. So on that note, welcome Sonali, and I'm looking forward to this particular session with you.
So I was just telling Priyanka, this is such a happy occasion that we have an indigenous framework with which to measure the proficiencies of teachers, and that is a very happy occasion for us teachers and teacher trainers across the country. So thank you very much for having me over. And
As some of you would already know, that Center has developed a competency framework called Center Standards. What this particular framework has is what are the competencies which a teacher is expected to have and over his or her career, and how those competencies evolve over time. So Sonali, this is your experience. What do you think some of these critical competencies are? Because what the framework has, of course, is subject knowledge, which is a foundational competency, like whether you're a mathematics teacher or a science teacher or an English teacher, there is content knowledge which you need to have. But then there are competencies like content planning, classroom interactions, etc., which become must if you really want to do well as a teacher and want to create a learner-centric environment. So what you say?
So the superstructures that you would need beyond your content knowledge would be the skill to, number one, communicate with your students, not only your students, with your peer group, with the administration in your schools. So those three would be very important, and of course, communication is what you would need for your classroom transactions. So that's one thing. And then, of course, like you said, classroom management is a very important thing. How you disseminate your lessons, how you implement your lesson plans, how you pace your time, how you structure, how you dynamically respond to how the children are intaking what you're giving them. Then the way you elicit, that's a very important skill that you should pick up over time. The kind of feedback you give, the way you sensitize your children to different things, how you contextualize and adapt your teaching learning material as and when required.
So do you see these competencies evolve over time, like if there is a pre-service training program versus an in-service training program? Do you see a change in the focus and the competencies which a teacher should have or should focus on as he or she grows in his or her career?
Yes, because see, initially there are certain things which would seem relatively new to you, and you may not have the necessary experience with which those skills come. So with time, you would probably become a better leader, because you will learn over time how to use the right strategies when you're dealing with people around you. So that would make you a leader. So maybe if you're talking about the different levels at which you might attain those skills, maybe you will not have it at the first level, you might gain it at the second level. So leadership or teamwork is one such skill.
Yeah, because this is what also, as you would have seen in Center Standards, is the structure of the standards. Like you have level 1, which are the competencies which are expected for frontline delivery. Whether you're a new teacher, there are certain things which you should have, like subject knowledge, or how do you manage your class, how do you engage all students. You cannot wait to get experience to deliver in that sense. But if we talk about, say, planning, content development, lesson plan, these are some of the things which probably you can take support from an experienced teacher and then deliver them in the class.
Say, for instance, the way you do your research or the way you reflect on what you did in the classroom. An initial teacher or a person who's just a fresher as a teacher would not be able to, do effectively. But over time, it's a skill that she would build, or he would build, and she would be able to, put the learning together through her.
So there are certain competencies which I would say can be built through a structured intervention, like a training program, etc. But there are certain competencies which are more like you need to develop them on your own. So like subject knowledge, you read up about stuff. Either you have just learned it through your own education, your schooling, etc. Or you read up stuff when you have become a teacher and gain that conceptual clarity, understand the right kind of examples which you should give, etc. But there are certain things which are related to instruction strategies or the tips on how to manage the class, etc., which can work very well with a structured intervention. So, based on your experience of being a teacher trainer, how would you look at these competencies?
See, there are skills which come with practice and real-time exposure. It's not something that you would get off the shelf of a textbook. So these are skills which you develop over time. Say, for instance, strategies, techniques for, like, say, for instance, grouping. What kind of grouping would work for collaborative activities in the class? So you might try out something which may not work. So you're going to go back, reflect on it, and then put it back into your practice. That becomes your uptick, right? So that does come through structured learning, because there is somebody who's designed the frame for you and you're working within that frame. They've given you some pedagogical input, and then they've exposed you to some amount of mentoring and training and handholding and reflection. So all that in a concerted way helps you to grow.
So basically what we are talking about, if I'm just trying to paraphrase it just to see whether we are talking about the same thing, is that there are structured frameworks which definitely help the teacher understand what kind of things he or she can explore in their environment. But then it's finally up to them, because everyone's context is unique. So when they kind of participate in training programs or other professional development programs, etc., what they get are typical strategies which can work in different scenarios. Then they need to look at which scenario fits their particular context, and hence customize those strategies which were shared in the program in their manner, reflect on it, see what's working, what's not working, and then how they need to improve upon it, and probably get back to the professional development course again to understand where the gaps are. So is that kind of a life cycle which you also look at?
It's a cyclic thing. There have been many instances where, from my own personal experience, I can tell you that maybe, well, I went up to the Northeast. After 6 months, somebody writes back, mails me back to say, well, ma'am, this didn't work. And I had to modify it, because what you had said, it doesn't work where I have 70 people in my class. So I made these changes. So that becomes a learning experience for not only her, but also for me, because next time I'm sure that that needs to be factored in.
Yeah, and that's the input probably given to that student, that some of the techniques which are shared in the program are for their reference, for their guidelines. Then they need to implement it, try it out, and honestly give that feedback back even to the trainer, so that their repertoire of the examples which they can give to next batch of students also increases. And there's nothing which is like right, wrong in this case. It's just experiential.
And very, very personalized, very contextualized. What works in one part of the country may not work in another part of the country. Or in one kind of socioeconomic group will not be relevant for another group.
So like when we talk about professional development of a teacher, the most important thing becomes, is the training relevant for the teacher? Are the strategies which are being told to them really pertinent for them? Can they implement it as such, or do they need to modify it? And so if we are talking about a different socioeconomic background, or are we even talking about technological differences, as we were speaking about earlier, that a teacher might be working in a context which is very tech savvy, like this student ecosystem or the school ecosystem is very techno savvy. So the teacher needs to bring that kind of a context. Vis-a-vis another school which does not have that kind of an infrastructure, but probably the students are still tech savvy. So the teacher needs to understand that. So how do you see it playing it out in your experiences or your interactions with the candidates?
See, teachers are interested in deliverables. So what, say for instance, a teacher wants to show an animation. So this time, some couple of days back, I was in a remote area of Maharashtra. So what I saw there was, well, they were mostly low resource schools. But they had their phones, they had smartphones, and they were using the smartphones to show them the clips. They were using little WhatsApp groups among teachers, not among the students, to share articles, to share, resources, basically.
Yeah.
So they were still using materials.
The focus competency probably is collaboration. Now, whether you use Facebook to collaborate or WhatsApp to collaborate or staff meetings, post-school for collaboration, the competency required is collaboration. Then a teacher needs to see what kind of context works for them.
Yes.
And how do you see the online training versus the traditional live trainings working in this context? Because online has its own benefit of making it personalized for each candidate, but then there is so much learning which happens when you work in groups.
Yeah.
So how do you balance the two, or how do you see that playing out?
As you just mentioned, collaboration is an important part of face-to-face training, because you get to make your trainees work together, and you can see how the dynamics work. You are able to get immediate feedback. And two very important aspects are the plenary sessions and the debriefs, which are not quite possible as effectively when you...
Can you just elaborate a bit more on that for everyone's reference, like the plenary and the debriefing sessions?
You've asked them to, for instance, to do an activity, and then you feel that you figure out that, okay, there are 5 people who have different views, and then they reach a consensus by working it out. And then they get back, they make a presentation for the whole class, and they give feedback on what worked on the field and what didn't work on the field. So that kind of thing is difficult to carry out when you're doing an online session, especially if it's asynchronous. If it's synchronous, it's still doable, but then again, people have different time zones, and that becomes a little difficult, and the immediacy is partially lost.
So while different models have their own pros and cons, like online definitely has the flexibility that if you are staying in a remote part of geography, then you can at least get some flavor of what's happening in other parts of the world. Obviously, there are cons, that the kind of interpersonal relationships which you can work upon, which are really important for a teacher, especially because teacher at the end of the day needs to interact and build that bond with the students.
Yes.
And with parents also. It's not only the communication which becomes important with the student, but it's also with the parents. Those kind of interpersonal skills, how do you focus upon in a professional development course? Like just the bonding or the empathy.
It's not something that comes easily. My experience tells me that there is often a rift between teachers and parents. Teachers don't often know how to handle the parents, and it becomes a sensitive thing. So I think structured training is going to help here, and it's a skill set which the teachers could happily learn. It's going to come to their advantage, and if there are agencies who are going to be developing these areas, teachers should definitely opt for these skill sets, because it's a vital area. There has to be communication between parents and teachers. Otherwise, the whole effort falls through, because it's not possible just for the parents. They both need to be on the same page, basically.
True.
Because it's the same ward you're looking at. Yeah, the same child. It's your child, it's the teacher's child, so the efforts have to be concerted.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I can just give you a small example.
Yeah, that'll be useful.
Say, for instance, if you're teaching them, giving them activities where you're developing certain kinds of speaking skills. Now, the parents, they are just looking at the classwork copy and they see there's nothing there.
So if you don't explain it to parents that we are doing like a verbal communication, then
there has to be orientation. The parents must know this is as critical as reading and writing.
Yes.
And your child needs this, and you have to have faith in us.
And sometimes what happens, so like when we conduct exercises with the micro-credentials, etc., what we see is that the communication is very one-way sometimes. That teacher is informing the parents that this is what we are doing, or the teacher is informing the parent that this is what you should do. And even vice versa, parents are just doing a one-way communication to the teachers that the child will not come to the school for any particular reason, or I'm finding this problem with the child, so why don't you handle it? The dialogue, the whole bit of engagement as two pieces of the communication sometimes is missing. While we're talking with the same child at the end of the day, these are two people giving their own inputs, not working collaboratively.
So to bring in collaboration, probably one thing that would work together is to have a workshop kind of a thing, rather than one teacher prescriptively telling the parents something or vice versa. So if you can make parents, this is just a very practical way of doing it. I've tried it out. Get parents to work together, give them certain problem areas, let them come up with a solution which is feasible and it makes sense. And the teacher is also part of that problem solving process.
True. So problem solving basically is another critical skill which we are talking about, which is like core competency that's some skill which everyone should have as an adult. Because it'll just help you in school situation or in any organization you work for. There are dynamic situations which keep on coming. Now, sometimes you can just be taught some of the strategies or the ways in which you can break a problem and solve it. But some of it is something which you just need to work upon on your own to keep on sharpening it over time. So do the programs which you conduct or have conducted focus on building critical skills, critical reasoning as specific competencies?
Like you said, these are life skills.
Yes.
They are the very foundations of the ways in which our brain works. Right? So there are different faculties. You have an analytical faculty, you have a synthesis level faculty. So you have to keep these oiled, you have to keep these faculties nourished. Problem solving is the end product. You should be able to do it if your faculties are well oiled. That's not one of the faculties itself.
It's like you just bring different pieces together to finally solve a problem. You might need different kind of knowledge, bring all of them together, weigh them, analyze them.
Right. So if your critical thinking faculty is in a proficient state, if your creative thinking faculty is in a proficient state, maybe you will be able to handle a problem better and find a quick resolution.
Yes, sure.
So those two faculties are the foundation things which will help that end result.
Another thing which we focus a lot on in our assessments, etc., whether it's teaching professionals, Olympiad, or more so in micro-credentials, is the whole habit of self-development. Like, how do I focus on developing my own competencies? And a major part of it is simple reflection. Do I think about what has happened? What did I do well? What didn't I do well? Then what do I do? Is there some structured way to build those competencies as a teacher? Or is it just like someone has it, someone doesn't have it? Or is there something you can do to improve upon it?
I'll tell you a little story, a small story. This was when my little girl was 5 years old. So one day I asked her, I was looking at some of her answers, and the first thing, my first reaction was, listen girl, you haven't been thinking. This answer has no thought. So she took this book, she had this little book in front of her. She brought it up close to her eye and then she asked me, Mama, am I thinking now? So I said, no, you're still not thinking. That's not thinking. Just bringing up the book close to your eye doesn't make you think. So then she said, Mama, I don't know how to think. Will you teach me how to think? That was when I realized that this is something we are not doing. We are not consciously teaching learn us how to think. That is metacognition, is very much a part of cognition. It is what has to happen alongside cognition. Cognition and metacognition have to go hand in hand. So metacognition is the thinking part about thinking. How did I do my thinking?
So how do we help teachers focus on this? Because sometimes what happens practically speaking, they have a fixed curriculum to deliver or impart to the students. In that whole process of finishing the syllabus, imparting the knowledge, you sometimes forget how to impart the knowledge about how to get knowledge, acquire knowledge on your own. Or if you have knowledge, how do you use it to do things that you are not aware of? How do we help teachers build some of these skills in themselves so that they can impart them to students? Because the gap is at both levels.
Awareness building, that is step one. You make them see the gaps. Teachers must begin to identify the gaps and where this gap comes from. And most often you will see learners have difficulties because they've done a lot of rote learning. They have not been shown the strategies of how to store information, how to retrieve information, how to use information when the time comes. So, it's difficult for them to use all that knowledge that has been jam-packed into their heads. So that is a problem. So unless a structured way of, how to use metacognition is shown to the trainer, to the teacher, how is she going to help the learner?
Like earlier we were talking about the journaling, which is more about how do you note your own events which have happened with you, because that probably is the first step to start thinking about things. First, you might be initially just capturing what happened. But over time, with habit, probably you start thinking about how you're thinking about those events, why those particular events, why not something else, why is it important for you, and probably that is the beginning of your understanding your own thought process.
So one good question which you can insert right there, it's almost like the KWL chart, isn't it? When you have those three columns, what I know, what I learned, what I would like to learn. Similarly, if you could have a little chart like that where you can say what I have done, what I think worked, what didn't work, what do you think, what do I think I could have done better? This last question is very important. Do you think would you change anything in the way you did things? That really makes you think hard.
And do it in a manner that it helps you improve.
Yes.
And not just as an activity that, okay, what I did well, I'll do it again. Why it went well. Probably understanding that also is very important so that you can build on it. Because what happened well in a particular context, unless you understand why it went well, you might not be able to replicate it.
Yes. So, yes, the components have to be right.
The components. You really need to understand why it went well as much as you need to understand your mistakes.
Even a blockbuster movie maker must know what components work for him to make it a box office.
True.
True. Every performance in the classroom is like a box office. Either it's or
it's no, I think the stakes probably are much higher for the whole society. That you deliver hits after hits is much more important in this context. So, and you don't get to see your results every Friday. You get to see them after like a decade or 2 decades when those kids grow into adults, and then you get to see the value added or whether your processes work right or not. It's a very long gestation period for you to see whether the strategies which you implemented as a teacher right now did work or not. And hence, just that regular assessment of your competencies becomes much more important, because if after a decade you realize that things weren't fine, then you just lost those 10 years.
So there are some skills which are particularly very important. Say, for instance, the way you give feedback. Just knowing what kind of feedback you need to give to what kind of activity, how much delay you need to give, for instance, how much processing time you need to give to a child. Say when you're eliciting from a learner, there is something called a wait time. How much time do you wait will depend on the kind of question you ask.
Sure.
Right? Sure. And incidentally, that also depends on the kind of syllabus load you have, the number of children you have. These are all the different dynamics in the classroom.
That's what a good teacher needs to balance.
Yeah.
Like the whole cognitive dissonance when the kid does not know the answer is trying to find the answer. That time, and how do you balance it with your own need to meet the curriculum demands.
Yes.
Yeah.
So these are very tricky. It needs a lot of judicious.
So a lot of it comes with experience. Obviously, you have made mistakes 10 times, and the 11th time you know how to avoid at least those 10 mistakes. But a lot of it can be kind of speeded up if there is an experienced person coaching you on the pitfalls along the way. It just helps you probably avoid some of the common mistakes.
And then also sometimes, if another agency has done these modules for you, they've designed a structure for you with the necessary components. Obviously, they've put in some amount of research, they've taken in feedback, they've done a needs analysis and put it together for you, right? So it would so happen that there would be certain components which would give you, it would be like a diving board for you. You would get more innovative ideas once you've gone through the course.
Gone through the base.
Yes. Say, for instance, there is one module which was designed by Oxford University Press, one of their online teacher training modules. It's on how to use visuals when you're teaching history, for instance. Okay? The role of role play when you're teaching history. Now, this is a relatively new idea for teachers. They wouldn't know, okay, fine, it sounds good as a title, but what does it really contain? Does it really show me classroom techniques?
Yes.
So once the teacher goes through this, they will probably try to experiment a little more and take it one step further.
So yeah, exactly. These are the kind of things which we try to assess. So when we are talking about like teachers should also have a regular break point to see how they're doing, whether what they think they're doing right, is it actually right or not. And that's why we think that the assessment bit and the professional development bit is like a cycle. You either take some trainings, undergo certain initiatives, and then at the end of the day, you see whether you have performed, whether you have really internalized all those things or not. Like for example, when we conduct teaching professionals Olympiad, what we do is like a multiple choice question format. So we'll give you different situations, and you see, and we'll give you 4 responses, potential responses, and you see for this particular situation, which of the 4 options work fine or not. Then at the end of the day, you'll get a score. And you will realize whether what you thought were the right answers for those situations, were they or were they not. And then it becomes important for you to undergo a professional training to address your gap areas. Like you might have thought that in this particular situation, I should react this way. It was incorrect. And you want to understand why your choice was incorrect and why something else is the better one. And a professional development initiative should help you bridge that gap. So it needs to be customized in that sense. That whatever I'm doing, it might sometimes happen that you're choosing a particular thing, thinking of a particular context that's not applicable or transferable. So those kind of competencies should also be developed by a training program that just don't sort of copy paste whatever you are learning in this training in another context. Or either it's like you have taken, you want to take the certification. I just want to prepare, you have certain gaps. So do you see a difference between both kind of professional development initiative? One is like, I know my weaknesses, I'm looking for some specific interventions to address them. Vis-a-vis, I just want to learn, and then at the end of the day, I assess where I am. Any kind of differences you see in both approaches, or what would you say to that?
Either way, both of them are useful. Whether it's the horse or the cart, it doesn't really matter. You can have it this way or the other.
It's like a cycle.
Yes. So it's about the gap being there and you trying to bridge it. That's what it eventually boils down to. So it would be good if the module has an inbuilt component where the teacher can actually take in the material, take in the input, process it, go through a review process where she tries to apply what she's just a concept. It's like a concept check task. Sure. So some of the OUP models, for instance, they have these components. A review is built into
the program.
Yeah. So then both your issues get solved because you get to see your gap right there, and you are able to kind of correct it. If you go way out, then there is a remediation path which will bring you back.
This is how I think probably we also look at teaching professionals Olympiad and the micro credentials. Like TPO is a dipstick. So you test all the various dimensions of a teacher, like your subject knowledge, your content development, your ability to assess students, find insights, your ability to handle classroom, etc. in a quick multiple choice format. Then you get to see your gap areas, basically that quick, low effort assessment in that sense. Then you undertake your professional development initiatives based on your specific gap area. Then you do like a thorough check on how much have you improved through certification, which is more involved, more practice-oriented kind of stuff. So that's how we look at both the initiatives.
That would be the career and the growth part.
Yes. And then how do you link, if I really improve my competencies, how do I kind of leverage or build on them? Probably the next step is to become a teacher trainer yourself.
Look for a better job.
Exactly. That's the hypothesis of center, that you become center certified and that leads to better opportunities.
Keeps you moving.
That keeps you moving.
Yes. In your mind too. And it's always a very enriching experience when you learn something. It just makes you feel so good that yes, I am in a position to share.
Yes. And that is why probably in our level 3 standards, when we talk about the ability to give back.
Yes.
And your engagement with the profession in the sense that, are you thinking about contributing back? Are you thinking about writing in journals or blogs or taking workshops, etc.? Do you engage with the profession that way? Do you feel yourself invested so much? Do you keep abreast with the new things which are happening in your subject? Like if something is happening in English, like if Oxford Dictionary is removing hyphenated words, do you know that as an English teacher? If some planet is getting added or deleted from the solar system mix, as a science teacher, do you keep track of that? Or if someone got a Nobel Prize for some chemistry discovery, do you know what that discovery is? Do you feel motivated enough to know about all these things, or is it just like a usual regular job?
Luckily for us in this generation, there are these several massive open online courses, MOOCs, and many of them come free too. So you can join the bandwagon and take these lovely courses. And the most important thing, the way they carry out these programs is you share your best practices. That is one of the most critical things. So that's a newer way of doing things. People are sharing their knowledge across the world, and this enriches you in manifold ways.
We've got a question. I think you would really be able to answer that. How does a teacher cross language barrier and help the students learn better? Probably the context is that it's probably an English medium school. The student doesn't know English so much for generation learner for whatever reason, or any other difference in the language of the communication of the whole school versus the child. And what does teacher actually do practically in that kind of a situation? Aishwarya, this is the question I think asked by you, and this is what will request Sonali to probably help us.
See, India is such a multilingual country, and we do encourage, especially at the lower levels, to use L1, the mother tongue, if necessary. But then again, judiciously use it so that your primary medium of instruction doesn't get hampered, and it doesn't get in the way of their learning. Because eventually, the medium of instruction needs to be given to them in the right format. So there are other techniques also. You might resort to miming if necessary, use visuals, use a bit of the mother tongue when necessary. Don't go for perfection, go for fluency rather than accuracy, and make sure that you give them something very personal, where personalized experiences where they are comfortable expressing it, and where they are not focusing too much on how
just the language part of it.
Yes.
Just try to get them to express themselves, express the thought.
Yeah.
It might be a broken language, it might be a mix of language, it might be sign language, some visual drawings, etc. So explore a range, and then probably over time you'll come to that point when language is not a barrier anymore.
And it's very important for the teachers to be appreciative of whatever's being produced. And that's one of the important ways in which you can overcome that. You can give them that low threat frequency, basically.
So I think what Aishwarya is talking about, that she teaches in a low income based school, and the school is an English medium school, but students are poor in comprehension. So I think that's where Aishwarya is struggling, that how do I make them comprehend what I as a teacher am trying to communicate.
See if visuals work for you, see if a little bit of pre-teaching of certain vocabulary words, work on the words a little bit before you actually give them the comprehension. Use a good lead-in or a warm-up which will get into the comprehension.
So like get them hooked onto what you're trying to teach in probably a language or a way they understand better probably. And then once they start getting primed for that particular content,
that's the right word.
Then
prime them so that they are attuned to what is going to come after that.
And then in the beginning, probably you will find gaps in comprehension, but just be patient with them. Over time, like first they might just understand 20% of what you're trying to communicate. But if you keep on doing this over a couple of months, that comprehension will gradually, hopefully, will improve if you are doing the right kind of priming. And possibly keep them motivated, like keep them involved and engaged, like your reactions should be positive so that they don't think that they are not understanding anything and get disheartened by that. I think in the whole teaching learning process, this whole bit becomes really important to keep the learner engaged, even if there are mistakes, there are errors, because if they get disengaged, then they...
And that is one of the purposes of comprehension also. If you don't give them a challenge, if they understand everything right away, you are not developing skills that you need to be developing.
Very fair point.
A very important skill that they are required to develop a challenging piece of comprehension text is using the surrounding text to understand what they have not understood.
Yes, the whole point of comprehension is to comprehend something which you don't comprehend.
Use the co-text. So if you don't give them that opportunity, they will not learn how to use that faculty.
So basically, probably you can try to look at cognitive skills in terms of how do people comprehend.
Yeah.
What are the techniques which can be used to comprehend? They might not understand each word which is being taught, but they'll understand the holistic meaning. And through that, probably you can just help them understand meaning of each word. This word is used in this context, this is what it might be. Those kind of strategies might probably work.
The grammar, the tenses that are used, that helps you to comprehend at what point of time how this action took place.
Sure.
So grammar is not just grammar by itself. So it is related to the context.
Yeah, grammar probably tenses, as Sonali is saying, can be used to say whether this incident is a future incident or a past tense, and help interpret text better. We hope, Aishwarya, that we have been able to address your query to a certain extent. So thanks, Sonali, a lot. We hope that you find this particular session useful. And just to reiterate, do participate in TPO because OUP has put in lovely prizes out with a 2-week masterclass as the big prize for all the English teachers out there. Please do register for TPO, and thanks again, Sonali, for this wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you all.
We'll just end.